somewhat of a test for the core game. Now they're kind of the core game, but they still do very little balancing during the league, which is kind of weird. They used to do more, but now they kind of do things that instantly kill you, and that's it. Like P-Link, Necrovigil, all this feedback that they got, they really didn't respond to it. They didn't balance it. They didn't say anything at all. So maybe this was another thing that makes us realize that a beta really is more and more necessary for stuff like this. But might be just coincidence. I don't know.
Well, I think that's all I really got to say about the beta. I know we understand the saltiness. We can turn this around 180 and go back into the hype because everyone's on kind of like a emo's path right now. Let's talk about some new skill gems, and here's one to kick it off. We got golems. We have a chaos golem, which is pretty much like your tank. We're not sure what the heck he does, but he's like this big rock golem type formation.
I have some press B-roll that I tried to look at to figure out what their skills were, so I can kind of go through what I've seen from them. The Chaos Golem has a Chaos Ground Slam. I can only assume it's a Chaos Ground Slam since it's a Chaos Golem, but it's a Ground Slam-like skill. And he has a Whirlwind AoE around him that is not up all of the time, but seems to be up a lot of the time when he's in combat. So that I can assume that's some sort of degen or debuff or something like that. Then he's also got some kind of like little floating rock things around him, because most of them seem to have 3 abilities, so I'm expecting that may be something defensive or something like that. I can't really tell. I couldn't really see any instances where that did anything. It could just be an animation of the character, and maybe I haven't seen his third attack. The Ice Golem, I only saw 2 attacks of. It does a cartwheel that leaves ice trail on the ground, and it's kind of like a charge. I think it goes through mobs, though. And then the other one is kind of like Merveil's machine gun ice spear thing. And then the Fire one, I've seen 3 attacks for. He has a long-range glob attack, and he likes to favor being at long range in terms of AI. And he has a kind of like a flame cleave when he gets into close range, and then at very close range he has a fire breath channeled attack. So that's the attacks I've seen so far from these guys.
Really fast, you said the ice guy has a cartwheel?
Yeah, he cartwheels through. He like rolls.
I want him.
And he leaves behind like the Arctic armor effect, and then he shoots like in the picture here you see him. He shoots like a barrage, or like the peacocks do. That like little, you know, like that kind of machine gun attack, which I'm pretty sure could be augmented. He seems like the jack of all trades. The fire guy seems to be the damage dealer, and the chaos guy is your classic clay golem from D2. Let's hope. We can hope.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't mention was that there are buffs associated with the golems, and they did talk about this, and they are combat-related buffs. Now, this could be obviously good for summoners because it could buff your other minions, but it could also mean that these have some utility potential in non-summoner builds. So they provide various buffs. I can't remember exactly what the buffs were, but they were like combat-related buffs that would be useful to other players besides summoners.
Pretty interesting. I don't know. I really don't know how to see this. Like, if I'm playing a ranged character, will the clay... Let's say I'm playing an archer, for example. Will the Chaos Golem be tanky enough for me not to invest any minion nodes into the tree?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Me too.
I hope they fill in the gap, like, well, the void that Animate Guardian kind of left.
Yeah.
I thought Animate Guardian is going to be like weapon golem or whatever it was called in D2, where it's going to be this thing that everyone's going to use, and it's this, you know, utility, and just very, very cool. So hopefully this is going to be it, because they did refer to them as like super summons or something. So I'm hoping you won't really have to get invested into them.
Yeah, I hope they're useful as utility as well. That players can chuck them on. I think with maybe hopefully just like some tanky minion support gems, it would be enough without any passive node investment to use them as utility. I hope it's a bit like Decoy Totem, right? Decoy Totem's pretty tanky and usable at level 20 for characters, so I hope it's a bit like that.
Pretty tanky?
Pretty tanky.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess. I'm just, I'm a little scared of new players using these golems and running maps and not realizing what chain does because they're by themselves, and, yep. Yep.
Yeah. Nobody ever runs a chain map. Ever.
Exactly. If you're solo and you're not summoner or dual totems, for the most part, it's like, oh, chain, free quantity. Yep. Let me just not use my golem here. I guess it's not really that bad, but I think that's cool. as Rise was talking about, to fill in the Animate Guardian gap, because at least the only use I've found for an Animate Guardian, for me, I don't have a build around it, is just putting like Dying Breath on it, and as a full summoner, it can still die like instantly. But having a Golem kind of, a lot of people were asking about like having kind of like a mercenary in a way, so you don't always feel lonely. You know, you want someone to talk to, and here you can have, you know, a cartwheeling golem at your side. I think that's a pretty badass friend.
Pox, you know I'm over here. You can, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm right here, man.
A cartwheel right through the wall. Right
Do you
now.
cartwheel, Zeno? I don't think so.
No, that would be something Pox would do after he's done eating a whole banana. Something I would like to add, it's kind of on the same talk about minions. In one of the videos, there's a minion that uses Frozen Orb. It's straight up Frozen Orb from D2. Spectres? Yes, please. Does this mean Frozen Orb Spectres? I saw it. I wish I could show the video, guys. If someone would be so kind to find it in chat. There is seriously a minion that does like 100% pierce, Frozen Orb, and I was like, that is going to be a Spectre. Like, I saw it immediately. And then I was picturing, you know, like this Frozen Orb with maybe like this Fire Golem setup, like this huge, like just burst minion type playstyle we haven't seen yet. Oh, I would love that.
Yep. How do you guys feel about the golems on summoners? I mean, summoners already struggle for gem slots enough as it is. Do you think they can work their way into any sort of summoners?
Depends.
They provide
Set
buffs.
ring, and that's
they
it.
can buff. They can potentially buff other minions if they can.
Yeah,
That
I
in
mean,
mind?
it's really hit or miss. It depends on the summoner build. It depends if you're, I don't know, maybe taking a different route now because of the gems. But for the most part, summoners are very, very, very link starved. Whether you're reserving via blood magic, you're running your vol gems, which you should run on a summoner. Whether you're running, you know, 2 sets of auras, your flesh offering, some type of mobility, you're really hit there. But I guess it's okay because, I mean, I don't really know yet 100%. I think if you're using a golem, you're probably removing vol gems, you're removing an aura setup, or you're removing a curse on hit setup or something. You're gonna have to drop something. You can't have it all.
You're forced to, yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe
I mean,
they give us socketed belts, 3-link belts for summoners.
I mean, this more and more indicates that it would be just a single link super minion, and that's it.
since summoners.
Because like this summoner skill has to be, if anything, usable by summoners, and it's not, because you have to give up something. I mean, it still might be a buff if you're actually gonna pick that over something else. You're still buffing a summoner, but I don't think they would like to remove something from summoners unless there is something that they don't like. Maybe they don't like the way zombies work, so they're like, well, why don't you use this instead? Why use Shock Nova if you can use Ice Nova now? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how PoE always is. Though. Why would you use this when you could use this? That's the generalization of PoE.
I mean,
I would-
I think they're trying to get away from that, though. Like, it would make sense for them trying to get away from that.
I'm gonna assume that it's gonna, like you said, Rise. It's instead of in that unset where I would usually run a Animate Guardian, I would swap it with a Golem, since you can only have one anyway, and it's gonna get, you know, the buffs from all your minion nodes as it is, so it should still be able to do something.
And if they provide like a buff, then even having it be not that damage dealing is still pretty useful to the rest of your minions.
I mean, on the flip side, maybe the new minions in Act 4 are going to be so insane that they're just going to destroy everything and you don't even need zombies for some unknown reason, and you want a cartwheeling golem instead. So, I mean...
It's going to be like Evangelists in the beginning, where every single build, regardless what you play, you could have been playing Reeve. You should be still running Evangelists because of how crazy they were. Like, with no points. They would just off-screen, like 3 screens away, no problem. Never die. Crazy.
It seems like golems are a new way to play the game where, you know, usually in Path of Exile you have, well, I'm a summoner, therefore I use summons, and everyone else isn't a summoner, you know. And now golems are like, you're going to use them, not in every spec, but there will be a lot of specs where you're like, I got a free link, you know, they changed cast when damage taken, maybe I'll use this instead. Or they changed, Immortal Call, Enduring Cry. It'd be pretty interesting.
I mean, a big clear speed problem for summoners is the fact that often mobs are not grouped up, so for some builds they wouldn't use this specifically because it would make the mobs less grouped up, so it would reduce clear speed, even though it would increase damage, kind of like melee, you know, a lot of damage, but slow clear speed because of mechanical problems. Maybe people would not use them because of that. It's like the only disadvantage that I can think of.
Yep. But if you're a kind of person who doesn't care about clear speed, go at it. Who cares, you know?
Yes.
So enough of the golem talk. Let's talk about Chris made a post in the he added on to that there will be no archetype end game change, but there is changes to the current end game. Ziggy, would you like to read the quote, if you will, from the way how maps are going to be now?
I can do that. So, where is it? Here we go. There are lots of new maps. They do go to higher levels than before, is the first part. And then, to some extent, running merciless Act 4 content is another endgame. There are many rewarding boss fights in Act 4, and they've been designed to be enjoyable to do runs for items. And then, additional alternate endgames are likely to be something we explore in future expansions. This was kind of the summary of Chris's post.
So they've already said that there's going to be higher level maps. So does this mean hopefully not corruption, no gimmick level 79, hopefully like legit level 79s? But they did say they want to change the way you level to level 100. So are they changing the way how the EXP penalty works? Are they changing how EXP works in general?
Yeah, I can only assume because they said that they were currently, it was on the border right at the moment with how quickly people reach level 100, and they didn't want it to get any quicker than what it is now. For the people that reach level 100 in like a month is too fast for them. So them making higher level maps would get them there sooner. So they must be changing something else. They must be changing something else.
I mean, they did mention that. Didn't they mention that players are possibly going to have access to more skill points now? Maybe it's just going to be through more levels.
Yeah, that was in
Not
the
just
Q&A from a while back, that they can give out new skill points with the new act. So they may or may not do that.
See.
But that brings up an interesting point. And they also said that they actually their quote to some extent running merciless Act 4 content is another end game. There are many rewarding boss fights in Act 4, and they've been designed to be enjoyable to do runs for items. So maybe this means you don't have to start right away at 66 maps and farm them until you're 75 or whatever. Maybe you could just farm Act 4 a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Get some things from that.
I think there's the potential that the map system starts early in Act 4 Merciless, and then you can do Act 4 Merciless in kind of parallel with maps, or instead of maps. I don't know how that will work with the whole map progression system, whether then you have to drop back to lower level maps, and it's not a good idea, or maybe you can drop higher level maps outside of maps or something like that. Like, that's a potential issue that I can see out of that sort of situation. But the fact that he says like it's supposed to be an alternative, maybe more so than just magic finding bosses, maybe also the zones around bosses and some of the zones, like the cool new Colosseum zone, are decent places to farm and level outside of maps. An alternative is good.
And with these 9 new bosses, does this mean 9 new map bosses as well that are going to be absolute terrors and good luck? Or are you going to skip them? I mean, because right now you look at Krima boss and you're like, she can kill me really quick. You know, maybe fighting Duresso on a map will be quite a different story.
Maybe not, because so far GGG have gotten more and more mechanical with their boss fights. Like, they've been more and more about mechanical skill. Each boss fight has gotten more mechanical after after the other, to the point where you can do Atsuru with 1 HP. So maybe if these do become map bosses, they'll be super mechanical, and as long as you're familiar with the mechanics and confident, you'll be able to do them safely. So maybe that's actually good. I like that if that's the case.
Not every boss is going to be Chatters and Mountain Lens. Sometimes you get your graveyard Merveil that's going to just destroy your face off. So hopefully we get to see some new map tile sets. There's no reason why GGG wouldn't invest all sorts of money into creating new tile sets and not use them for maps. I'd like to see that, and hopefully they change the way how maps work altogether. Like where we get like a Zana type feature where you get your level 70 Mountain Ledge or your level 66 Palaces.
Yeah, they haven't said anything about that yet, but I think a lot of people would want to see that. I'm keen for that too. Just adds a nice extra bit of diversity if the maps scale upwards from where they drop. Would be perfect.
I think it's pretty cool that this actually promotes, like what Ziggy said, if you can choose to do either these bosses or do maps. This kind of promotes looking at maps more like their currency than just maps. So I like that a lot. So some players would choose the bosses, but then hey, maybe they want to map a little bit, and then they buy those maps. So other players would be like, hey, I don't want to do these bosses. I'll farm maps, and if I need currency, I'll sell them to the guys that are doing the bosses. So I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, cool.
More options is always good.
Yeah.
Something to think about too is aside from drop bears, every new mob that's been added to the game has made its way into older maps. You know, your Dried Lake will have its little will have Devourers, for example. That was a newer mob introduced in Nemesis, and Dried Lake has been around for a while. Do you think that, you know, will we see these zombies with the you know, Swiss cheese type skin? Are we going to see them in the older maps? Are we going to see those new mobs in older maps? It's something to think about. Not every mob will be Devourer anymore, which would be nice.
They still haven't added drop bears to maps, so I wonder what they're gonna do with this.
Drop bears are a little exclusive. They're not allowed to be in maps. They have a home. Technically, actually, really fast. Technically, they can be in maps. Tora can summon her friends, the drop bear army, to be in maps. It's true. You can have Toras. I've fought level 78 drop bears before. So, it's very
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, in Tora you can get it. The corrupted ones.
Where's the tinfoil hat when we need
That's
it?
what killed Moldrin, right? Drop bears.
Drop bears are very yep.
That's what killed Moldrin. Rip Moldrin.
Can't dodge it.
Oh my god.
I'm sure they'll add all the new mobs to the mob rotation for sure, and I'm sure they'll add drop bears in at the same time.
So on a side note, how do you think they're buffing Torture Chamber boss?
Every freaking league she gets buffed.
I'm just curious. I mean, I do her every league, and
yeah,
she's not difficult. She's just really rippy if you do it bad or poorly. But every last patch, it was the laser, and then it was like the Call Thunder, and then it was like So I'm just curious. And then they changed the pillars around a little bit. So I'm just curious how is she gonna get buffed now? Is she gonna have two lasers? Maybe she'll have the what's the staff called that makes it shoot in like a pentagram or something?
Was she actually buffed?
Nova
Yeah,
laser.
every time they release like a big patch, she gets a new addition. I don't know why. Like people never used to do her before, and then they added the Call Thunder, and then people
that's
still.
the thing.
Yep, and then they put in the laser, and everyone's like, "Well, a lightning laser. I'm not doing that, boss."
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it pretty farmable right now
pillars
because
get
people
removed.
know the mechanics? But before, when the boss first came out, like nobody would do it, and everyone was batshit scared of it.
She's not hard to do. She's really low life, but people are just scared of her because if you the lightning warp totems can instantly kill you. Like the lightning warp totems are the scariest part in there, and but it's just funny because every patch she just gets stronger and stronger. That's all. It's just cool. Anyway.
Anyway, I mean, did we cover pretty much everything? Is there anything else we've missed? We did the desync. We got the jewels, uniques. We kind of talked about some of the new skills, but we've already talked about Abyssal
There hasn't
Cry.
been too much announced for skills yet, apart from what we've already talked about. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about a lot today. I think it's time to kick off some freaking Q&A. What do you think, Ziggy?
Yeah, guys, if you would like to post some Q&A in chat, do it Q&A and then, at ZiggyD Live, tag me so I can see it and copy and paste it, and then we'll pull out some questions. But we can kick off right now because some of you guys have been posting.
Be right back. If it's directed at me, be right back.
It was, but it doesn't matter.
Well, time to skip them.
Go, Zeno. Go on, get out of here. From Zulada, Q&A, is it just me or are the unique jewels kind of missing a real downside compared to normal uniques? What do you guys reckon? Rise?
That is very true. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna find a way. Like they made it clear that they want level 100 to be more difficult. So I would imagine leveling along the way would be more and more difficult. So they're probably making the content more challenging, and the jewels are supposed to be there to balance it out. But I guess we just kind of have to see how it's gonna turn out. I mean, I know that GGG does not want more and more like WoW style, just stronger and stronger, for the players to be stronger and stronger, right? So they don't want the clear speed to be too insane. So this is like a good time for them to balance the game around these jewels, and in general balance the game around what they want the design to be when it comes to getting to level 100 and leveling in general.
I think there's kind of like an inherent drawback in that usually you have to travel just some dexterity and strength nodes or intelligence nodes to get them. Like there's the passive point investment, And it might be a little bit awkward at times as well to do that. And if they're ones like requires, some of them do have drawbacks, like requires 70 intelligence in nearby nodes. Like you might have that in your build anyway, but a lot of the time you might have to spec a few extra int nodes here and there, or some nodes you wouldn't get otherwise, in order to make the bonus work. So,
Yeah,
I
but
think
in
there
all
is kind of an
cases, it's
inherent
going to
drawback.
be a bonus, right? Like in all cases, there's never, if there is a downside to you getting it, you don't get it. So,
Right, that's very
Oh
true.
yeah, if the downside outweighs
Yeah.
the upside, but it's not like there's no investment cost. It's not like this is only a buff to the power of characters.
Yeah, I think that GGG knows what they're working with, and I think that this is totally fine. It's just an extra level of customization.
Alrighty, sure thing. Heaps of questions, guys. Good work. Let me move on to the next one. From Zegaz. What do you think about the range of jewels being a circle? It seems kind of odd to me, since the tree isn't really about geometry, but about taking steps. So I agree, sometimes it looks pretty awkward, like the nodes are cut in half and stuff. I don't know, what do you guys reckon about the circles?
And I don't really like it. It seems like it's just more fluff points, but really I think it's the same amount of points you're normally spending, plus the jewel is the extra point, but you're getting a notable out of it. So it could change up some specs, but if you think about it, like they said there is a potential of possible more skill points being introduced, so it probably evens out in the long run.
Hold on, are we talking about the same thing? We're talking about the circle radius around some of the gems.
Yeah. I mean jewels.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Jules, yeah, Jules, goddammit. What do you guys reckon? I mean, sometimes it cuts it off. When you highlight over it, it highlights the jewels. I mean, they can just adjust the circle and the exact placement of the tree. I mean, there's nothing, although it seems geometric, the tree is like literally, it's completely arbitrary where nodes are. So now they have freedom to shift the nodes around slightly to make the circles work however they want. So I think it's really, it's just up to GGG to change the graphic of the passive tree.
I mean, maybe
I
this
don't
is
think
a
it's-
long-term plan to even expand the skill tree further, because they've been removing more and more and more travel nodes, making it more and more efficient. Maybe they want to make it bigger, and that way they can
It does require
position
some
the
spacing.
sockets better. Yeah.
That's a really good
Basically,
point. It
it's more
adds like a
spacing.
real physicality to the passive tree where like the space actually starts to become much more important when before it was just the points.
Yep.
So that's an interesting sort of change.
Something to bring up, I noticed looking at the skill tree, they removed the one extra point on the way down to Ballistic Mastery and Charisma. They removed one of them, and I was like, finally! You know, going down there was just way too many points, and like Rai said, they make it more and more efficient. This has like been the biggest quality of life to that side of the tree ever.
Okay, next one is from Radikins. Do you think GGG will implement a lot of quality of life improvements and features such as loot filter to the core game and not just for the closed beta? Hold on. Yes.
It's gonna be integrated in.
Yep.
Yeah. The beta is for testing it, and then they're all coming to the core game.
The beta is
No,
the
they're
game.
gonna
It's just part of it.
The beta is going to be a flop. They're just going to cut it.
I'll proofread the questions just to make sure they're not too obvious. Leffers. GGG stated they wanted to incentivize melee in this expansion. This is true with the new Fortify and Buff Warcries. Still, do you believe there will really be a melee meta evolving with all those new spellcaster toys coming, i.e. the Nova Staff? Yeah, how do you guys feel about how melee is shaping up to look in this patch so far?
I think melee is actually really good right now. I just don't think that melee is ever going to be like the meta, because everyone always inherently, if you ask a person what they like playing in a game, usually it's I want to be in the back and not get hit by anything, or I want to play a mage, or I want to play a ranger, or I want to do this or that. No one usually voluntarily steps up. I mean, some people do and says,
Some people do.
yeah, some people do, but once they start playing PoE, realizing how insane damage is, even though it's totally manageable when you learn the game. I want to be in everything's face when I could just be in the back. But I think, like I said, I think melee is perfectly fine. I think that, especially with for some reason, I feel like the jewels are going to help melee out a lot. I don't know what it is. Something's just telling me it's going to help them out a lot. But I don't think you're ever going to see like 80% of the players are playing melee or 60% of the players are playing melee.
I think the only way to balance melee ever in this game is if you were to make casters a lot weaker when it comes to single target or damage in general, but have the proper AoE, and then make them melee you know, the same, I guess, AoE as they got right now, but make the single target really matter. I mean, often people see Flame Blast one-shots the entire pack, but, well, Flame Blast is not a good example. Let's say Kinetic
Yeah.
Blast. Kinetic Blast one-shots the entire pack on the screen, but then they struggle sometimes on
Single
uh,
target.
on single targets. So
Kinetic Blast also not the best example because you can one-shot bosses
yeah,
with it
it's
too.
yeah. Like this highlights the problem.
Yeah, I know
mean,
what you
just
mean.
make it so that single target starts mattering because in a map
I-
clear, you know, if you spend a minute clearing a pack and then a minute clearing a single mob, you can reverse it so that melee actually matters because you clear the AoE slower, but you clear the single target faster. And it's, I mean, it really promotes group play at that point. Like, really promotes group play because if you don't do enough damage for the entire group, right now one guy can do enough damage for the entire group. But if you can't do that anymore, and melee has that huge amounts of damage, it really promotes that. So I think
That would
that's like
depend
the
on
only
how they
fix.
scale HP for parties, I think, because
Yeah.
I play mostly solo, and that would be really punishing as a spellcaster to play solo if
Yeah.
you just had no options for good single target. Like you had to rely on a melee character to do that. I like that idea for making melee viable, and that would certainly promote party play, but it would be punishing of solo unless they fixed it with some sort of health scaling mechanic where your AoE would still be sufficient single target. So maybe that's possible.
I mean, let's talk about the buffs that we've seen or teased so far about melee. We got a new two-handed sword, crit sword, so that's damage. That's a huge
Lots of
damage
damage.
buff.
Lots of damage.
We got Fortify and Vigilant Strike, can't be evaded, so that's a defensive buff and potential new builds. We have Golems, maybe a nice Golem to chill and slow things. You know, perhaps maybe changing curses around so that, you know, melee right now you feel like it's Warlord's Mark because it's the only thing I can actually afford, you know, because I have a ton of strength. You know, Temp Chains maybe has some int requirement, but most of the curses, you know, like Vulnerability, it's pure int and you never can use it. I would like to see maybe a little curse change for melee. But overall, they're getting some pretty good buffs. They are getting some pretty good buffs. Even a Fire Golem in the back doing some damage for you, you know, it's not... I think it's a step in the right direction, and I'd like to see that direction, you know, they keep taking that. The next question.
That's a good point in chat, Rise. I don't know why you didn't say that in the actual podcast.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Where it would be
RaizQT from the chat says you can play
it
solo as
would
Gusty
be-
and spend 2 minutes on single target and 1 minute on AoE, and then well, you can go ahead and explain it. It's your quote.
You would spend 2 minutes on a single target while everything's moving, and 1 minute on AoE. For melee, it would be reversed: 2 minutes on AoE and 1 minute on the boss. In the
So
end
it's
result,
3 minutes
both
either way.
would
That's
have
a good
the
point.
3-minute clear speed, right?
Yeah, good point. Good point. If it was balanced in such a way, that would be
Yeah.
interesting potentially. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I think we're good with that one. Yeah. The melee question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think personally that the game is expanding out in all directions for spellcasters, bows, and melee. But I do think that melee will be getting a lot of the stuff it needs. I mean, for a long time they've been asking for like a flat damage mitigation. You're getting that on a pretty reliable way. Like you'll be able to put it on movement skills. We saw it on Whirling Blades in one of the videos that you can get your Fortify buff, along with a bunch of new skills and damage dealing stuff. And I think we've only seen a fraction of what we're going to see for melee. There's going to be a lot more changes to come. So.
Yep. They're taking the precautions they need to do, or not precautions. They're doing what they're supposed to do with melee. They're actually giving a crap. I guarantee there's a dev team that's like, the community's unhappy with melee. What are we doing? And I'm pretty sure they're working on it. You could tell by these changes this past go around. Next question, Ziggy.
Alright, sure thing. From Servenomic, or Servenomic, how do you think the beta will affect small streamers if they're not in the beta as opposed to larger streamers getting the beta? I'd be happy to spearhead this one if you don't mind. So, GGG, in my experience, and obviously, like I'm a fairly large Path of Exile streamer, but this is also my experience with many other companies, is that initiative is everything. If you take the time to send GGG a message, like a well-written email, as a streamer, even if you only have a regular 5-10 viewers, they're probably going to get you into the beta, to be honest. Like, I don't know for sure, but I think taking initiative, like, doing what you can to get into the beta. I mean, streaming is always unfair. Like, people get opportunities. The bigger people get, the better opportunities because they got to that point, and it's more beneficial for the people giving the opportunities. But I think if you do take the initiative and maybe try and grow your stream between now and the beta, get yourself a couple regular viewers, then you might be able to get it sorted. But obviously, it'll have an impact. That's streaming life in general. It's kind of just what you have to deal with as a streamer. But sometimes you won't get those opportunities.
Coming down to numbers, if you average 20 to 30 viewers, and that means you'll probably have maybe 120 to 200 different people throughout the day. That's 200 people looking at the beta and also telling you things that needs to be changed in the beta. So really, it's just like Ziggy said, it's the multiplication factor, whatever the heck you used earlier, where it's not just one person getting the beta, it's multiple people getting the experience of it. They may not be playing, but they can catch things.
Everyone in chat saying, "Be right back, starting stream now." Good guys, start streaming. The game needs it. More streams is good.
Have fun with that, Ziri. Have fun with that, Ziri. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Excuse me, Mr. Poxcap. I saw your YouTube video. Is your build at Ziri viable?
Do you guys have any further comments to add to that question?
No.
Perjanuth asks Q&A, buying into the beta? Question mark. How do you guys feel about how would you feel if GGG put out supporter packs and one of the bonuses was getting into the beta?
No. Pay to win. No.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I could see it happening in this scenario. So like I said, again, let me clarify. I don't like it. I would not promote it. However, with the introduction of supporter packs, if a supporter pack had a beta invite in it, I could understand how it would work. Although I do not like the idea, I could totally understand if it were to happen. Not saying
in a way,
not paying for the key, which is what people would do anyway, but I'm just saying having the key included in the supporter pack.
In a way, this would, kind of give the community what they want, no? Either way, this is what we talked about earlier. It's always a double-edged sword. Would more people be able to get into the beta, and would it be justified for GGG to do kind of an open beta style? It's a money wall, but an open beta style because they would have the resources to do it. Yeah, but would people be extremely butthurt that they have to pay for it? Yeah, there's no solution to this.
Yep. To clarify,
I still think keeping it free is the best way to do it.
To clarify, they did introduce this with closed beta. You could purchase your way into
they have done this in the past. That was for the. I kind of feel like in the past they needed to. At that point, they were still heavily reliant on crowdfunding, and that was their crowdfunding was selling beta access and selling those initial packs. I don't think GGD needs to do this now, and I don't think they should. I think, as I said, as Raiz says, it's kind of a double-edged thing. This would allow people who really want to get in and do some testing, but I don't know. It would kind of be like a little bit of a, because at the moment I hold GGG up as such a good company when it comes to microtransactions, but selling the beta access for an expansion pack, I don't know, would kind of feel a bit negative on that. It would feel a bit
also
salty.
It gets players away. It's been countless times where, for instance, in the MOBA department, the paid MOBA didn't succeed while the free MOBA
one worked.
did. So this is the exact same thing. I didn't play PoE in closed beta. I started playing day one of open beta. Day one. So this might discourage people from actually checking out the game, or saying they're going to check it out later and stuff like that, while they could be playing right now, just not the expansion, or maybe they're going to get lucky and get into the expansion for free. No solutions.
I'm hoping, my personal hope for the beta is that pretty much everyone who wants to get in to test of the existing communities, so the people that kind of get on and apply there and have some sort of play experience in the game, more than a couple hours in the game, get in. That's kind of what I'm hoping. I don't want it to be a fully open beta, because I don't just want a bunch of new people to sign up to play a new game that isn't finished yet. But I want people who have been playing and who want to test, some people will just sign up because they want to play, but hopefully everyone who actually wants to test and provide feedback will be able to get in the beta. That's my hope. And then we won't need a buy-in. That's what I hope, at least.
No buy-in. That's it.
We'll find out within 24 hours. They're gonna announce the criteria. Yeah, I tried to find out before the podcast, but I don't think they're ready to announce just yet, or they haven't fully finalized yet. We'll see. Okay, I think we can move on from that one.
I'd like better
I like that
to
idea.
drop from my bosses. Logan has the best idea.
Knowing you guys, though, the beta invite would drop from the boss, and then you get a rollback.
I mean, imagine though, that is a pretty cool idea. Like, people are really, really mad about streamers getting access and stuff like that. Although we don't know if that's gonna happen. But like, imagine if the beta would be only 100 players. Would it be better for it to be 100 average Joes, or would it be better for it to be 100 Hellmans? Probably 100 Hellmans would test everything a lot faster. So.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool idea, although it's never gonna work.
It would be cool, but yeah.
It wouldn't work. Then
That would be
the
so fun.
It
the
would
RNG
be
salt
fun.
mine all day.
Yeah, but just
I don't
think
have
about
time. I have a job and
Just think about how
It's so
fun it would
original.
be. Yeah,
Like,
it'd be
nobody
so
ever
cool.
did this before. Brilliant. Honestly, I like this more and more.
A beta key dropping only off Torture Chamber.
Then it would be truly a streamer beta, though, which is what people are calling it already.
Yeah.
No, everyone supports their fellow streamer, and then I just think it'd be so much fun.
Cyberx would die and say I died with all the betas. Alright, anyways.
50 Golems and 50 Gooders. Hell yeah.
Oh god.
That'd be some serious testing. Yeah, okay. Alright.
Next question.
I'm talking
Um,
100 Hellmans strictly for the bugs and all that kind of stuff, just to see as much of the game
Dual
as possible.
Sleep Slam would be very well tested in that
Yeah.
expansion.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh shit! All right, Sweet Size Small. What do you think will happen to the base game while the beta occurs? Will players just be stuck in standard hardcore for 6 to 8 weeks? They did say that something will be happening. They said 2 things will be happening before Awakening, and one of those was our 1 month. I think something else will be happening, and I think it'll probably be something pretty fun. So maybe Cutthroat. They've been waiting a while for that, or maybe our crazy cross challenge league idea with every single challenge league in one event. Maybe something like there'll definitely be something happening in those 6 to 8 weeks for the people not playing the beta, because even out of like, it seems like everyone wants to get in the beta and will be salty if they don't get. There's actually people who don't want to play the beta, and those people will want something fun to do for sure. So I think there will be something.
I really hope it's that, or as Reddit's deemed it, the Alloy League, because they don't speak English as their first language. The Hybrid League, but I would really like to see that. If that's it, I'm going to be very happy and I will play it. The Alloy League.
Alloy League.
I could
Don't
actually,
mention the R word.
I could
Oh,
actually
sorry.
honestly say that if beta was NDA and I got an invite, I would not play it.
As a streamer, that's you can't help that. you can't
Yeah. Well-
can't spend like hours a day playing something if you're not streaming it as a streamer.
Even as a regular player, I'd rather play other games and then just have the fair advantage that majority of other people would have. Just because I don't want to ruin the experience if I don't necessarily
that's true.
have to ruin the experience.
People are
As-
saying that the beta would be a big gameplay advantage, and it'll be a little bit, but you'll be able to get so much information even if you can't play without an NDA. But if there was an NDA, it would truly be like a big advantageous situation for the people playing,
Yep.
because
I mean,
they would
dealing
get so
with
much knowledge not being
bugs,
able to share it.
Dealing with bugs ruins the experience anyway, so I wouldn't play either.
You could just imagine now, though, since it's not on NDA, most likely, if I were to get a key and I didn't play the game, there would be a lot of pissed off people coming to me. So it's kind of like you're forced into it either way as a streamer. So
You're gonna stream RuneScape during the PoE beta.
He's probably chopping trees right now. I know my roommate.
actually, I am spinning flax the bowstring right now. So
Damn it!
Wonderful. RuneScape is a poor example because you can play both. Good point. Good point.
Please, no more.
I didn't even bring it up.
My bad. Orison Fells asks, what are all of you most hype about for the new expansion, i.e. new bosses, uniques, and skill gems? What are you guys most hyped about? Rise, what are you most hyped about, my man?
New potential event game and balancing changes. Really cool stuff. I like that a lot. And obviously the fresh feeling, like I mentioned before, the fresh feeling of not knowing where the hell or what the hell do I do with this massive skill tree. Hopefully I'm going to get that feeling again with the jewelry.
I'm hoping for, like, really skill gems. I want to see the new skill gems that haven't been released yet. You know, all the new ideas coming around, like, with Nova. If Nova's actually a support gem, like, I can only imagine all the sorts of cool videos we're going to see, and just changes meta completely. I like meta change, and this is a step in the right direction.
That too.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
What about you, Pox? What are you most hyped about, my man?
honestly, the jewels. I really want to see what these jewels have to offer. A lot of the times, okay, let me clarify. Every time I make a build, it lacks a lot of defensive scenarios, and I feel like with the introduction of jewels, I might be able to get the extra HP that I want, or maybe save a skill point or two so I can get acrobatics at level 88 and not 90. I feel like it's gonna give me the little extra of what I need for my characters.
I'm glad you guys said like end game you make some jewels because that allows me to say the thing I was going to say without being like, well, everything's so exciting. Bosses. I'm most hyped about bosses. Like 9 new end of act level bosses. Holy crap! What the? I can't imagine it, man. And with the way GGG's design has been progressing with bosses, I mean, I was hyped when they put Val in. It was the first mechanical fight in the game. I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is good. And when Val first came out, it was scary, and everyone was like pretty damn afraid of it. And then you know they added Piety, nice cool mechanical fight. Dominus is more mechanical. Atzir is like super mechanical. I can't wait to see what these bosses are like. That's what I'm most excited to play. Sure.
Invasion was my favorite league, so I definitely agree with that. And Atziri, I always repeat, like, people thought in the beginning that Atziri is like a, I don't know, gear check fight. It's really not. People do it with 1 HP. It's amazing mechanical fight that you don't really see in any other ARPG. So more of that is super awesome. And I miss Invasion, so I just want more of that. Invasion.
Endgame, or the final product of Invasion was so solid. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, after, well, maybe they, they overdid a little bit, in my opinion, the last patch, the very last patch, but, like, the patch before that, I mean, I'm so upset that they couldn't put it in, well, that's another thing for the beta. If they would have beta tested it, Invasion would be in the game right now, but so many people got so upset about it in the beginning, GG, even though they made it very solid when they balanced the game, they were no longer able to put it in the game because too many people quit, and they would just never come back, you know. If they saw that Invasion was, even though Invasion was fine at the end.
Which further proves that having a beta is probably a good idea. Just because investing that much money, you don't want another Invasion flop. You do not.
Yeah.
What do you got for another question?
Sure thing. Lemon Dex asks, what about the leveling progression now that there is 4 acts in 3 difficulties? Will the players feel daunted because of how long it takes to get to endgame? So we know that there has been a level rebalance of the zones. And my kind of take on this is that instead of spending time farming ledge for half an hour and sand for 2 hours and docks for 3 hours, we would just be straight progressing. That's what I feel is going to happen. Like the really efficient like race players will figure out the parts that they can skip and will still farm in certain zones. But I think the average player is probably going to just do more straight progression without any need for farming, stopping for farming. So lengthwise, it should be. I don't know. It could change, but you should still be getting to like the feel of endgame around the same time. Maybe I don't know. What do you guys reckon?
This is a really weird issue, simply because so many people are upset about the random mobs in the zones, and I'm not, but I kind of understand people being upset about random mobs while progressing. So this kind of gets into that, where maybe this gives you that map feel a little bit sooner because the progression would take a little bit longer, so that's why they didn't remove the random mobs. I'm not entirely sure how it's gonna pan out. I think I have to see it for myself.
Something I'd like to say to the community as a whole, like whatever's in beta, don't cry about whatever's broken in beta. You don't need to make thousands of forum posts crying about how imbalanced it is. It's beta. That's the point. Just submit it to GGG, let it be. Now on release, if there's things that are absurdly broken and overtuned, by all means, you know.
I would counter that point with the fact that maybe they should be complaining because that's what gets things fixed.
Well, yeah, that's true, but just don't like overdo it. You know, like Orders of the Frozen Sky is a perfect example. On release in Bloodlines, if you guys didn't know, it would like one shot you if it was a squid pack, you were dead. You were freaking dead, and all we saw was forum thread after forum thread, R post after R post, because I'm not allowed to say that word. Raiz said so. Of just crying and complaining, and the beta. That's the whole point. You know, anything that's like just extremely overtuned or undertuned, just send a message to them. Crap, they listen.
I'm really looking forward to the new leveling process, though. The way that they've rebalanced that, I mean, it's going to be like a completely new experience. I love leveling in Path of Exile. I think a lot of that, like that question, comes from the mentality that leveling is something to get out of the way, so you can get to the real game, the end game. For a lot of games, that's true, but I think for Path of Exile, for me, like the leveling process and the end game process really blend into one. It's one of the few RPGs or like action RPGs where I feel like that's the case, where the leveling process itself is a legitimate part of the game, and it's like an actual challenge. And I feel like this is going to be like a complete shake-up and change to that. I'm really excited to feel what the new leveling process is like. I think it's going to feel really different. And I think this is also a big part of why we're having a beta, because they're not just testing just the new act, but they're testing all of the acts and how they feel within the new progression system as well. So that's why I think we'll be rolling new characters and testing out leveling too.
True.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see just new variation onto what you do, kind of like how Ziggy was talking about before. You go from ledge to docks and whatnot. Like, I personally will just run through the entire game, and then I get to Sins, and I'll usually farm Chamber of Sins and Merciless till maps. And that has pretty much never changed on any character. Like, it's like go to Merciless Ledge and maybe farm to 53 for Hollow Flasks, and then I go to Chamber of Sins. And every single character is pretty much follows that exact rotation.
Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to see something change.
It also revitalizes racing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so many so many negative things about racing were said in the past, and it threw away a lot of people that would potentially do it, but no, because something. If GGG does, like, puts out the racing season at a precise point, they just might make racing a lot more interesting for a lot of older and newer players. So we're really looking forward to see that.
I'm hoping like there's some cool gems. Like, we didn't really see any aura love, you know, like maybe there'll be, a jewel based around auras, you know, things like that we have to think about. Anything that's like a direct category, I'm expecting or assuming there will be a jewel that encompasses that. With 20 unique jewels, we're going to see a lot of cool, interesting things.
Yeah, there are golems though that are coming out to help kind of with auras a little bit.
True. That crit accuracy aura the fire golem gives. Oh man.
That's stuff. The next question comes in from Monk Choose, and he asks about the cast when damage taken setup changes. What do you guys think will happen, or how will you play around the changes to the fact that Enduring Cry no longer works with cast when damage taken? How you set up your characters, especially to deal with like things like Fizz Reflect?
Well, I've actually never used that gem before, so I don't think my builds will actually change. So
yeah, you play like trappers and summoners and totem builds.
yeah, I mean, I think all you need to do, in my opinion, is like you get like a quality Enduring Cry, and then that puts AOE on it, and then you just put it to Echo, faster casting.
Can't use Echo. It's not a spell.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. You just cast it. You just cast it. You get endurance charges. You level the gem up. You know, you get your endurance charges. And can you still do Immortal Call on cast damage taken?
Yes.
Then you're fine. Nothing really changes. It's just make sure you hit an extra button every so often, every 10 seconds or something. Or
that's actually my answer. I think that people will start running higher level cast on damage takens with Immortal Call linked to it. You still get your increased duration Immortal Call. Maybe chuck something like a Devouring Totem on there, which will be pretty good once it's at a higher level. So level 15 plus cast on damage taken, and then self cast endurance charges, Enduring Cry. So you'll have endurance charges up all the time, or some other mechanic providing them, which is mitigating the smaller damage, and then the big damage will set off the Immortal Call, and you'll be protected.
Really fast, I was going to say another thing is people might start using Warlord's Mark more now, because that'll kind of set up the automation that they had before.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, all you have to do is, if you're 4-linked with Enduring Cry in there, just make it a 3-link and just self-cast Enduring Cry, and there's your fix. Yeah, it's a little bit more work, but it's quick, easy, done. Once you've played an Enduring Cry spec where you constantly keep it up, you just get used to spamming that button. If you've ever played an Enduring Cry spec, you just get used to using it.
It incentivizes people doing multiple actions, which could potentially increase the fun in gameplay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think casting Enduring Cry.
And in general,
okay, to confirm,
damage taken Immortal Call was never. I mean, you get charged by Roas or Devours or whatever, Leapers, and my cast when damage taken didn't go off.
This will actually be safer.
But it's all snapshots. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So this can be quite confusing, and yeah, more buttons to click equals fun. Except if you're playing like a quad trapper or something, that thing is hell. with
Really,
E.
Yeah.
really fast to bring up. So now they're tagged as war cries. Do we have a clarification? Have they said exactly what the default casting / attack time, whatever you call it, is for the skill itself? Because it's been lowered, right? Or no? Okay, we don't know yet.
No,
All right.
they have 4-second cooldowns.
All right,
some of
so
them.
I want to say that you could expect to have the skill's default animation time to go down from what it was before, since you have to manually cast it now, which I would say is definitely a pro because you don't have to worry about it. Because that's one reason why we don't like to use a lot of gems. Like manually cursing sucks if you're not a caster, usually stacking casting speed or whatnot. And same thing with Enduring Cry was annoying to cast when you don't have faster casting link to it. Someone said 0.25 of a second. I don't know what's confirmed or not, but it'd just be really cool if it was actually lowered.
Remove
knows?
it.
We'll see.
Remove the cast time in general.
I mean, that's amazing.
You still have to click the button, and it doesn't
Animation you.
interrupt anything, and you have to keep up your rotation and stuff like
You
that.
should be able to shout while doing things. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, just makes sense. I think it would be a lot better. Do the same thing to mines, for instance. That would also incentivize playing mines a little
Yeah.
bit more.
I agree.
Just more fun. It's more fun.
That's the biggest problem with mines. You have to lay them and then wait, detonate them, and it's just too much slow time. What's our next question? In fact, why don't we make this our last question? We've been doing this for quite some time now.
Okay, sure thing. All right, from Smatty Matty. How do you think the base types of these jewels will affect what they do? Cobalt, Crimson, Viridian. So we've seen that there's different types of jewels. And I guess I'll also tack onto this maybe some discussion about potential Valor being an implicits and things like that. What do you guys reckon? What's with these bases? We've seen different
Cobalt's
bases of
blue,
jewels.
Crimson's red, Viridian's green. And they're dex and strength.
But what are
bases.
they... Like, there's no requirements? They don't have specific
No, there's no
slots they're going
requirements.
to?
They just work around that element, that thing. For instance,
So it's just a thing?
Cobalt would be the cursed one because you need intellect. It's based around that side of the tree. Does it have to be in that side of the tree? No, but it's based around something similar to that mechanic. Remember,
So you think it's just a thematic thing?
it follows their suit of red, green, and blue throughout the entire game. You know, there's just following suit. Their gems, red, green, and blue. Their
Yeah, but
attributes
this is
red, green,
that's
and blue.
always served the functional purpose, though. Like, all of those things have a functional side effect to the fact that they're themed to that element, and they
their side
and
effect
or
is
type.
you need 70 intellect to use the additional curse.
Well, that's
So-
that's the explicit thing, so not an implicit thing. It's always been an implicit
Oh,
thing.
there's no
like,
implicit. I don't.
yeah. So, do you think this is something they might add, or I don't know? Is there something hidden that we haven't realized yet?
Well, you think about like the, let's see, the Crimson. It's got like mace damage and attack speed with weapons. You know, it's something a red would have.
It might be important for, well, it will be important for chancing, and which uniques you get is based on which base type. So that's important. That's an implicit thing.
I don't know. That it just seems to follow the suit they've been going. You know, the Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense thematically. I'm just curious. I think must be something else there as well. Maybe it affects what stats can roll as well.
Mhm.
Maybe
Could
they
make
have
sense.
a bias towards certain stats.
True.
I mean, it has to be called a specific way. So I think that's just
That's
pretty
true as
much
well.
it.
Yep.
I mean,
Rise is keeping it simple.
I mean, it's true.
It
They
has
could
to
all
be
just be called
something
jewels.
too. Like you,
They
you
could all
know,
just be
if people-
jewels.
Yeah. I mean, if people, for instance, in the beginning, for instance, you start 3 characters, and those 3 characters are strength, int, and the other thing, and you get that first jewel, it incentivizes that you recognize that name of that jewel, that base, with that specific class. So it's
Yeah,
just,
that's a good point.
you know,
And if there
you
is
look
like
at
a
it and
bias-
you're like, oh, this gem does this and this, but it has the name this in it, so it should cater towards like intelligence stuff or something like that.
yeah,
You
if
know,
the
so it
blue-
just gives
if
you
the
that
blue
basic
gem-
idea, so you don't have to look throughout the entire skill tree if you find them randomly.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see what happens. If they do have a bias towards certain stats, so blue ones are more likely to roll caster ones, or they can get some mods that you can't get on the other bases, then that'll add an extra interesting layer to the crafting and drops of the items. But you can still put them anywhere in the tree, though.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
interesting extra addition.
I mean, it's
Alrighty.
cool because you can switch them out, like we said before, where you can, it's not like a skill gem where you have to worry about the colors or anything like that. You can switch them out even mid combat, I would imagine. So it's just very cool.
Yeah, okay.
That other thing. Well, this concludes State of Exile podcast 28. That other thing is dexterity, by the way, Rise. Stuff you never use. Till. This concludes episode 28. Thanks a lot, guys. This has been a long episode, nearly 3 hours long. Hopefully, we can do another one next week. As long as GGG's coming out with some teasers and information, we'll keep pumping out podcasts. So thanks for tuning in. We love doing these. And Rise, thanks again for coming on. If you guys don't know who Rise is, Rise, if you'd like to give a little self shout out, if you will, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm. You can see me at Twitch TV, RaizQT. I'm a full-time Diablo 3 streamer. I stream 24/7, and that's pretty much it. I like cats too.
Cats indeed.
And thank you very much for the invite, by
Like
the way.
this.
These are always a lot of fun, so thank you very much
It was
for
fun having you
me.
on.
Hey, no problem, Rise. The least we can do. And, of course, you can find Ziggy at twitch.tv/ZiggyD Live, but you're probably already all following him. And I'm sure you know his YouTube as well, ZiggyD StarCraft. He's a full-time StarCraft player as well.
Yeah, I'm full-time.
Bunch of Blizzard
player.
sellouts in this stream. And
Wow.
you can find my roommate, Pox, at twitch.tv/Pox and YouTube/0HXP because...
You can just type in Pox.
Because
It'll
he's
pop
the
up.
edge.
Pox
He's the
Kappa.
edge master.
No, I made that account like 8 years ago, and I just used it, and everyone's like, Pox, you spelled your name wrong, and I'm like, please.
Is that Mowgli I see? Wow.
Yeah, Rise said he liked that, so I brought Mowgli over.
All right, guys. Thanks. It's been fun. We'll see you next week, most likely. Not tentative. We'll go tentative again.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Let's see. Who to host?
Bam, bada, bam.